put that since I know the brush zones.
Oh, I would have described it.
Sorry. Brush zone C is Brush zone C is basically the area that goes from the parkway to like the railroad tracks, for a short, simple answer. I mean, it's just approximate.
Okay, and do you know what the response rate was? Because they were saying that it was so high everywhere. Even if that's the lowest, I assume it was still high.
Okay, so brush zone C is 19%. Total number of responses was 387.
Okay, and what was the highest response rate?
In zone A, 37%.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, 19 versus 37?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just a little comment about the recreation center. They did not take into account that we do have indoor facilities at the YMCA's, one in Colts Neck and one in Red Bank. So that's outside of town, but still they are relatively close. Just so you remember that. I also had a question about whoever spoke about the grant to Phillips Park.
Oh, that would be me.
That was it. Okay. Can you tell me what the grant was for?
Sure. But I need to use your microphone. The grant was for upgrades of the basketball court. It was putting in a new interlocking tile system for the court surface, new hoops, nets, backboards, and that type of thing.
Okay. I guess that should be taken into account too. And just way off base, but Eric did mention the pilot at Bellworks. I just wanted to know, a meeting or two ago, Bellworks got the approval for, Somerset got the approval for a hotel to go in the building. How does that affect the tax money? I don't know the terminology, the tax money that we receive from them, because obviously they'll be getting more income. What does that do for the town?
You want to answer that?
Yeah, that's, you go ahead, Don, if you want to.
So that will be considered revenue that they will have. So part of the pilot, they have to advise us of what their revenue is each year, and once it hits a certain level, that's when we start getting our pilot payments. So that will be included in their revenue report that they do for each year.
Okay, does that mean we get more from them,
Yeah.
or we
Yes,
get?
yes, conceivably once the hotel's up and running. So it's going to be years down the road before we see that. But yes, it'll be part of their revenue stream.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
In the back.
Springsteen Campus, 2 Country Squire Lane. I was part of the Recreation Advisory Committee. I'd like to start off by thanking our township for deciding to do that project. I think it was a very worthwhile endeavor and something we definitely needed, because we know the recreation issue was polarizing this town, and we really needed to know what the majority of the citizens wanted to do. And I was very gratified that I was appointed to be on it, and I started out with very good intentions, and I had no idea what that survey would really turn out in results. And I was willing to accept that and work with T&M to do that. We started out, we were going to only do a sample for the survey, but we all felt we wanted to make sure everyone in this town had the opportunity to have a voice. And it was decided to send it out to everyone in the town, not just a sampling, okay? So, I start out by saying every single person, household in this town had the opportunity to make their views known. And we got back a very good sampling. T&M was concerned we wouldn't get back a good response to do it, but we did. And if you look at those things, and I won't repeat it, but if you add up what the people that said we don't need to spend and the undecided, we're at 88% don't want really any more money spent, 441, and 98%. So I think we got a big message. And the thing that troubled me when I was working on that committee is everything was going fine, open communication. Once the results came in, problems started to happen. No communication, we're going to present the results to the public, then we're not. We're going to first do interviews, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You know what, I'm not saying anything, but from being on a committee doesn't make me feel good. And I sent my concerns out a number of times about the lack of communication, okay, the lack of transparency, and not sticking to the original goals of that committee when we started out. And one of the things, which was suggested by T&M, which I thought was very good, we never send an email just to one person. We reply to all, because we should have open communication. Well, what happened? I had emails I sent out, I never got an answer, okay? We were told before this report came out, we'd have a meeting of the ad hoc committee. That never happened. We were never told it wasn't gonna happen. The next notice was it was gonna present it here tonight. You know when I got my copy of those results? Same time you all got it, 5 o'clock today, okay? And let me tell you, do I have to stop?
Keep going.
And let me tell you, there are things in that report that literally are, pull it out of the air. Where did that come from? Where did it come from?
So I'll tell you where it came from. Fran will tell you where it came from.
Okay.
Fran, the initial proposal was obviously not communicated, or it's clear.
Well, I would respond with 2 points. One is we and I, being in charge of our effort, we did have gaps and letdowns when it comes to the broader communication with the ad hoc committee. That's on me, that's my fault. We did have Evan leading the process from the beginning.
Right.
Then that changed on me, and it took me some time to adjust. And then we did have some gaps in our communication. However, I don't feel there was a lack of transparency, only in the sense that we always have communicated with emails as a group. We just were slow at times in responding, and I know that we had set up an expectation that we did not always meet. So that is on me. I take responsibility for that. I would suggest that anything that's in the outline of suggested projects or enhancements for consideration are not dreamt up independent of the survey results. They are connected somehow to some question or data or survey response. And you heard tonight, some of it is statistical analysis, some of it is open house, folks coming in and telling us how they feel. Some of them wrote their suggestions on cards. Our attempt has always been to take the broadest amount of input that we can gather and inspire from the residents, and do the job we can to funnel it, filter it, and try to break it down into some semblance of an outline. Again, it is not etched in stone, it's not a one decision, and it is not a mandate. It's a fluid outline of concepts, ideas, and items that are outlined in the survey for your consideration going into the future, knowing that the order of priorities and some is going to change. The order that you consider them will change, and some of them will never get serious consideration and won't be pursued. This was never an all or nothing proposition. It's simply an outline of suggestions based on my reading of the results and my interaction with some of the people that participated.
Could I clarify then? I misinterpreted my position on the Red Advisory Committee, because I thought we would be able to get to hear that and be able to ask some of the same questions that Dr. Pascucci, that was my thing. How do you get an indoor recreation center? We never even got to ask those questions before it's presented to you. You shouldn't have those questions now if we had that opportunity to look at that report, because maybe there is a legitimate reason, but that's the point. We never got a chance to question that report, those things, and get an answer. That's a lack of transparency, because that's what makes me feel uncertain about what's really going on. If I felt everybody was diligent enough to express, I mean, a lot happened since those results went out. we interviewed 12 people. Where did this come from? I mean, and all of a sudden I get an email, we're gonna interview these people. Where did that come from? I mean, the communication was a key part to this. And I hate to have to say it because I wish I could have came up here tonight and tell you what a wonderful report. And I hope you consider a lot of these things. But I have to say, as a Recreation Advisory Committee member, I do not accept the report of T&M. The only part that I think has any semblance is the first year, which talks about maintenance. And the other thing you might want to consider is 4 buildings that are being proposed from that report. 4 things. A pole house, a recreation center. We haven't been able to afford to fix the pool set club, which is an indoor, which is a center. And now we want to put up buildings that we don't know we can maintain. I'd rather be a town with nothing than a town with everything that's in disrepair and a disgrace. That I say I live here and I look at it. I mean, maintain what you have, otherwise it's a disgrace to this town.
That's part of the recommendations.
But,
We'll get through that.
but, and how you get from 98% said they're happy, don't spend any more money, to 1 million in the first year, and in the 10th year, $25 million.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
We got a lot of other stuff to spend our money on in this town.
Thank you.
Hey, Bruce Henderson, 11 Bryce Road. Actually, I have kids in the town, 2 daughters, both play softball. I coach softball, right? I love sports, I love activities. I'm also not a person that's looking to get the world. I think if you just look at, a lot of other people said, maintenance of our facilities, right? I have girls that were sitting there on weekends, we're trying to play softball, and you know, it rains on a Wednesday, and it's Sunday, and you can't play because there's no drainage on the field.
There you go.
All right, that's something simple, you know, put a little drainage system in, you don't have to make big developments. All right, so I'm not looking for a lot of stuff, you know, batting cages maybe, you know, little small, you know, nets that the kids can practice in. You know, so there's a lot of small things that you can do to improve the existing facilities. I do agree. A lot of the other stuff, indoor rec center, all right? Maybe you look at a public company, do what Middletown did. You know, have a private company come in, you lease out space to them, they build the facility, all right? They take over the pool club, they do all the improvements to the pool club, all right? And that's, Middletown did it. They have the ice skating rink.
58,000 people.
No.
It was 17,000.
You know what? One of the things I'm also finding, and that's what we're lacking in this town. We don't have a community. All right. I see kids that sit inside. They play video games. I see. You know, we're talking about an e-center to have kids play more video games inside rather than going outside playing sports, getting together. All right. I remember when I was growing up. You know, used to go and play baseball. And, you know, I played with all my friends in school. All the parents got together. We all sat at the games. We're finding a lot of the kids now, they're going out of town. They're playing in Lincroft. They're playing in private facilities. They're playing in club teams. They're playing in other places that have better facilities that we don't have. All right, so you lose those kids. Like, once the kid's gone, he's not playing with his other friends. Families aren't getting together. All right, you know, this family's over here rooting for this team, this family's over here rooting for this team. All right, I know certain people, all right, and basically also the last thing, I know the survey says that we're stagnant, there's no kids coming into town, we're declining. I don't know, I moved into town 5 years ago, I have 2 kids. Every single house that I've seen sold has been a 2-person family, their kids are in college, they sold the house. What moves in? A family, they have kids. All right, so I don't know the surveys from 8 years ago, but I know 6 houses on my block have sold. Every one of them has moved in. They have at least 2 or 3 kids. Those kids play football, sports. All right, so you got to look at the future. You got to look at building the community. So
Thank you.
that's about it.
Appreciate that. Barbara.
Barbara Singer, 5 Deerfield Road. One good thing I'm hearing tonight, it seems like there is a lot of common ground. I wasn't really surprised with the survey. I think a lot of people, we know why they're coming here. It's for the ruralness of, Homedale. Another thing that has come up with me in talking to people on the ad hoc committee, we only had one person so far come up here and speak. There's a lot of them not happy with how that was all run. And as a resident, I'm unhappy because we were told this was supposed to be representative of the community, and this committee didn't get the input we were all expecting. I don't know if it's too late to actually have them come together now and go through this and give us what they see as priorities, because my understanding would have been that they were part of that process. I was going to come up here and say, oh, what was their input on the interviews and this and that, but just in talking to them, even privately, it didn't happen. And when you're a community, in a small community, and a lot of what's done around here is done by volunteers, it's going to be hard to get volunteers now for something like this. And, that to me has been a loss in this process. And I did speak, Fran, if you'll recall meetings ago when this was all starting, I didn't think T&M should be at the helm here, also because I think you should avoid even the appearance of impropriety.
Yeah, very good.
Yep.
So, I don't know, it's not just him. I understand you have a business and I get that. It's probably more so that this committee should have,
Independent.
right, pick somebody who was more independent, and it would have protected T&M. It would have helped with the response that you're getting from the community. Okay, I'll move on to another item. I did note on here that in the methodology, the sample size, the goal was 400. We had almost 3 times that, and in talking about Zone C being a small, lower, response rate compared to the other zones, that was 387. So that was almost what they would have considered a proper response rate. So given that this response rate was 3 times what they would have liked, I think this has to be given a lot of weight. I don't know how many people showed up at the meetings. Do we have numbers on that? How many were there?
The 2 open houses, there was 29 at the first and 20 attendees at the second. I just want to mention that the original outline, we did have the approach, the methodology included a sample of 400. That wasn't what we preferred or what we would have liked. It was the minimum to get a statistically valid survey for a municipality with 5,600 households. At the onset, it was openly discussed and determined that it was preferred to send the survey to every single household, which we supported. We thought that was best. We did that, no additional cost to the township. And it did give a very strong number in terms of the number of responses. It's not that we were hoping to get low numbers. We were hoping that we got the strongest numbers we could get.
Right. No, I understand that. I didn't think you were looking for a low number. I
Okay,
just
no,
meant statistically
just for others who
400.
are listening. And then the other piece is, we always pledge to interview 10 stakeholders that would be identified, and we expanded that to probably 12 or 13 with people that had become aware of this or presented to us. We were supposed to meet, I think, up to 4 times with the committee. I think we ultimately met 5 or 6. We are, we're not trying to limit the process, but we were supposed to be done in approximately 5 to 6 months, and going on 9 months, it was our focus to try to complete the effort.
Okay, and this list of people being interviewed initially was supposed to be staff. Is it correct that it went beyond staff then at a certain point, or they were all staff members who were interviewed?
It was never specified to be only staff. It was supposed to be people that represented leadership in the stakeholder groups, and then folks that were presented to us. We asked the ad hoc committee in various ways for folks to interview.
I believe phase A of your proposal as to what work you would do in this process, it said the interviews were with up to 10 staff members. I don't have the document with me, but I will look at that again.
I'll take a look too. It's up to 10 people.
Up to 10
I don't think it was.
It said stakeholders.
Stakeholders, I'll review my copy. Can you explain then this, on
That's
page
question one.
7, priorities for investment for rec facilities based on the priority investment rating? I didn't know if that had to do, Eric, what you were talking about, like return on our investment. Is that how these things get reprioritized then over here? Does that have to do with that, or how does that happen?
No, that was addressed by Ryan, who I believe is still on the phone. He can perhaps redress it, but it's simply a metric that the survey managers use to try to identify unmet needs or interests in terms of top priorities for investment.
For financial investment, that's what, is it being used, not in a financial sense?
Not in a financial
Okay.
sense at all.
And one more comment, if you don't mind, Mayor. The surprising thing that did come out of this survey that was unexpected was this whole lack of communication and people not knowing. And then tonight you were talking about this poor resident and his electricity and not knowing that he had to call somebody, and I'm thinking I wouldn't know that either. And all this lack of communication just reminds me of the job posting where we were looking for somebody to help with the communication. And so again, I would ask this committee, please reconsider that job posting. It has come out in our survey, which was done before there was any debacle over that position.
Thank you. The gentleman in the back before you, sir.
Ron Emmett, 32 Ladwood Drive. I just would like to echo Dr. Pascucci's comments and obviously other comments where I think it's a huge leap where 7 out of 10 residents are opposed to any more investments in active recreation facilities, how we get to having an indoor facility as a priority. Having said that, I'm not against an indoor rec center. My question is, in that big, thick summary, is there any suggestions of where that center should be and what size it should be?
We can't answer that.
I can't answer that. I'm sorry.
Maybe
There was 3 spots, right?
Yes, we tried to envision the relative size, and as was noted tonight, during the interactions with some of the groups, it was revealed to us that a rec center was contemplated several years ago. There was actually a floor plan that was sketched up by an architect that does facilities like that. The floor plans were somewhere in the range of 30,000 or to 250,000 square feet. That was the rough outline and shape of the building. It had a track on the second floor. It had certain elements baked into the schematic. They were not final plans. So we took a stab at looking at what real estate the township owns that is a part of the park and rec inventory, and where something of that size and magnitude could be situated, keeping in mind the need for utilities, roads, and parking. We did put together a very rough schematic identifying places that it could potentially be considered.
Which are where?
One is at the high school campus at the Lovehurt House location, along the road in front of the building, alongside the theater building. That is one place where it physically could fit and have the needed utilities and road access. The other youth-type building facility could be contemplated in behind the post office. Okay, there is some space there that it could be contemplated and suitable for orientation there. And then, do you recall if there was?
Swim and tennis center.
I'm sorry, and the swim and tennis center as well. That was another place we thought, if it was something of interest, and it was something they were contemplating funding in the future, those are the 3 locations we thought were practical and suitable if it was something that was supported.
Thank you. Secondly, my other question was, some of the facilities that people don't know about, one of them that I didn't know about that the town owned was F&F Nursery. Is that deemed open space, and does that mean we cannot develop that, or is that just open space and it cannot be developed? Say again?
It's preserved farmland.
So we cannot build on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Leah.
You know what, Donna, I just, for the record, I just want to clarify something. I believe there's a small parcel of F&F that does have the flexibility. Not that there was any plans, but I just don't want to mislead the gentleman in any way. I think I'm correct with that, Rocco. I think that's back at your time frame. Isn't that correct? That F&F, there was a small piece that was originally...
On the other side of the house.
That was broken
There's
out for
5
an original
acres.
library 15
Yes.
years ago. So that piece actually can be built on.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to...
But not F&F, the farm itself is
Correct.
reserve farm.
Perfect place.
Leah Shave, 11 Ladwood Drive. I too, like Francine, was on the ad hoc committee. This is the first time that I'm seeing this report as well. So I would like to ask Fran a question as to why are we seeing this report without having any input into it? When there was a meeting that was supposed to be scheduled and I repeatedly asked by email why we weren't having it and it wasn't, you didn't answer.
We had, probably 6 or 7 weeks ago, we had established a sequence of steps to prepare to present this final report tonight on March 13th. That was
Correct.
the goal.
And there was a meeting that was scheduled for March 2nd.
That's right.
That was not held.
That's right. We were not able to pull that meeting together, and then we, I believe it was the week of March 5th, we were working towards pulling the committee together to have one last meeting. That is something, that is an expectation that we had set, if we could pull it together.
Why wouldn't you have postponed this presentation tonight without being directed to the ad hoc?
Well, I would-
One of the things that was discussed actually was the esports, that we would gladly had a conversation about had we been able to have that meeting.
In my view, the March 13th was already a month or two late. We were working to finish our process, and I would suggest we have had significant input, a number of meetings, the interviews, and in my estimation, the disruption in pushing it off from the 13th would have outweighed the step I tried to take but was not able to pull together.
Okay, but then you asked for input because we got a draft on Friday night at 8:30 p.m. You asked for input by 12:30 p.m. on Monday. I submitted input, I know Francine submitted input. It's not reflected in this report, and I did not receive a response. Why is that?
Well, there's two pieces. One is we solicit input, and then we take it into summation, and then ultimately, not every bit of input is going to be reflected in the narrative. That's impossible. The other part of it...
None of it was reflected in the narrative. None of it. And we were on the committee from day one.
Okay,
And you didn't even respond to the email.
The lack of a response is...
Unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
I understand.
So I honestly
I know.
question the legitimacy of this report in its entirety. I would also like to say, where in this report are the stakeholder interviews? Because they are nowhere in this report. And why were not they shared with the ad hoc committee?
We can provide the rough notes that we took at the interviews, but I can assure you that the feedback and input has been surmised in the narrative that's contained in this report.
Yeah, but where is that narrative? And my question then comes to, what is the percentage of weight that is put on 20 to 29 responses and 10 interviews versus 1,200 people who responded via the survey?
The vast majority of the report is a reflection of what the survey results.
No, it is not. No, it is not. I was involved in those meetings. And I also want to say on the record, too, that we had grave concerns, I know the public did too, about the pool club and, you know, improvements to the pool club, to the system, the pump system. It's not scheduled till year 7. Year 7. So there are priorities that obviously somehow people took place over this that I really have a big issue with. So again, I do not stand by the results of this. I was not involved in this summation at all. And I think that really needs to be addressed, and the township should really do some type of investigation as to what happened and get their money back.
Kenny, now you already asked one question, didn't you?
I have a number of totally unrelated, different comments. The first one relates to, Jenny Blumenthal, 41 Stony Brook Road. I think before anybody got the microphones functioning when I first walked in, I think I heard Greg say that he was pulling from the consent agenda, item 6C, which related to hiring the PR company.
Correct.
Can you explain why you pulled it again? Because you pulled it last time, too.
I just voted no. I didn't pull it.
So you voted, so the thing passed? I thought you pulled it.
No,
He voted no on that, voted yes on the rest of the consent agenda, so that specific part of the consent agenda would have passed by a 4-1 vote.
All right, well, I still have 2 questions relating to it. How long is that contract for? Nowhere in the document that was attached did it say how long it was for. Is it $1 per word? Or is it for 5 years? Or for what? It doesn't say.
Jenny, it's a good question, and I was very concerned about that. That is the maximum amount that we would pay her. I've asked the administrator that, look, dealing with the COA and the way that obviously we continue to have a communication problem in this town, we do need some assistance, but I've asked the administrator to monitor that. I have no intention, none, zero, of authorizing more than a few $1,000s. But I do think it's critical that it gets explained, because again, it's an extremely complex gift that the state is giving us, and I'm being sarcastic with the word gift, because, you know, it wants to control housing and how that impacts a town like Homedale. So, you know, before everybody gets up in arms because, there are going to be houses here or there, I think it's important to understand all the facts, and it's a major job. So we're hiring a professional to help communicate that, because again, like Barbara said, we do have a communication problem, and it's a shame we didn't hire that person.
So my second question as part of that was, when will we see some results?
For what?
For the expenditure of the $17,000, are you going to wait 6 months?
No, I want to be clear. That's what you can spend.
So that's.
So we might not spend $2,000.
Yeah, that's an amount not to exceed. So like we do all our professionals.
Oh, it didn't say that.
It should say that in resolution, amount not to exceed. Okay, well, it's an amount not to exceed. So when we hire the attorney, the engineer, it's an amount not to exceed. We will not expend more than $17,400. However, as Eric said, we're looking to minimize that cost and keep it well under that, but that was the amount not to exceed.
Okay, because she's got a whole laundry list of things she could do here.
That was her proposal, and what the committee decides to do with her is going to determine how much we're going to pay her. So she may just write 1 or 2 pieces of PR or a letter, and that might be $2,000, and that might be it.
All right, we'll be watching the bills.
Absolutely.
On item 6H, you approved a Sustainable New Jersey grant application. What is that, and what was the amount of dollars?
$2,000.
Yeah, that's
It's to upgrade the recycling bins at Cross Farm. And a lot of...
And they've been working on that, and that's why that's on there.
Well, nowhere did it say. Also, I guess this is a Wendy question. When you put the attachments on the end of the agenda, which are extremely helpful, so I don't have to go to the clerk's office and look at them every time, could you number them so that the consent agenda items match the lists? Because I had to keep flipping back and forth. It always used to be so that when you came to the title of something, it said consent agenda number or 22, and you could know what it was for.
No problem.
And let's see, the rec report. Please put 1 or more copies of this tome in the library, so folks, and not to circulate, so that people can go there and look at it.
You can do that.
And,
well, that was the last one now.
Huh? No, I said I have 6. I did 5, but the last one is, I don't approve of spending any money on this recreation business more than the maintenance thing that we're talking about, but because I really believe that you need to put your money in the places that are really important to life and limb, otherwise known as getting us a fire department and doing something that Eric said they started doing, making sure that our kids aren't shot in our schools.
We're working on both diligently.
Good, but spend the money there, not on soccer fields.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone new care to speak?
I got a quick one.
It's new topic. Yes, Sheila. Haven't seen you in a while.
Oh, I'm behind the scenes doing all the openings. Okay, so my question was, and Sheila Frankie Gilstein, I live at 11 Chardonnay Drive.
Identify yourself. You did.
And what I'd like to know from the T&M person is, what is your weighting system for weighting the survey, then the open houses and the interviews? How did you weight that? Did you use some kind of recreation statistical model? And how do you weight it like that? Like is 150%, 125%? Because I think there's some misunderstanding when you have all these things, how they all work together.
Fundamentally, there was no elimination of any of the elements that were represented in the survey results or fed back to us through the open houses or interviews. It wasn't that we were competing for space in the outline. It was simply a matter of judgment based on the combination of things, weighting the survey the heaviest. And that's why...
Well, how much, what percentage was that?
There was no mathematical rating system. It was taking all of the inputs and putting them in a sequence based on judgment.
Okay, well, I appreciate that information. Usually when you see some statistical things, and it all was listed, delineated in the 1,100 pages of emails, it said exactly what you're going to do, which was fine. It just didn't say what the percentage and how you come out with those opinions and how you make those recommendations. And I think for us as a town, and even people that aren't in recreation or movement, they really need to understand what's going on and how it gets weighted and how those kind of things all come together. And that's confusing for people, and that information is very important. And thank you, Wendy, for all your help.
Thank you.
Joe in the back.
Joe Crowley, 15 Ely Road. I was also a member of the ad hoc committee. I want to thank Donna for her efforts. I think she worked diligently. I think there was an effort at good faith communication. I think there were some breakdowns. I also think, more importantly, some of the problems were due